Hey, fam, and welcome back to the Tripod with your co hosts, Heidi, Hope, and Heather. In today's episode, as we continue our conversation on what it was like to grow up in a big family, we excitedly welcome our sister Stephanie, otherwise known as Steph, and sometimes even Stevie, to the podcast. Hey, Steph, welcome.
Hello, Heidi and ladies. How are you?
Great to see you. We're
Nice
so
to see
good.
you
We're so
all.
excited you're here.
Well, thank you for having me.
Well, all right, fam. Steph is child number 6 in our family, and she is 9 years older than the three of us. And Steph sort of sits in a unique spot in the family. She floats in between the older siblings and the younger siblings. She was born 5 years after our sister Pam, and then spent the next 7 years as the baby of the family until our sister Faith came along. Yeah, Hope, for those 7 years, Steph had the rare experience of being the baby in the family. Like, she was everybody's little sister, and so we're interested to hear if that stretch of time as the baby of the family has given her a perspective unlike anyone else in the family. So, I'm excited to hear what she has to say. Me too.
So, yeah, so it's interesting, when I hear stories about like my older siblings and what their childhood was like, I don't feel that I had the same experience. They talk about each one of them had to take care of the other one, right? And had to be with them. Or, my older brother Vim will say about these stories that, one of the kids like threw them down the stairs on his tricycle, or Deborah got thrown down the stairs. Like, I never had any of those experiences where I ever was, bullied by, like,
Being thrown
just
downstairs.
like not thrown down the stairs, but like they'd be playing outside and one of them would push the other one's tricycle like down. Like, I never had that. I always had them around taking care of me, right?
Yeah.
Or taking me out, or Deborah would always take me out and like buy me dresses because she was older. Would like buy me cute clothes or different. They take me out to lunch. So I felt like I was sort of the princess all the time. Right?
Well, that's
So,
awesome. We know
I
that's
mean, honestly, and I think that that's, I never thought about it, but I really think that's why I have a different perspective on my childhood. Like, I felt like I actually got a lot of attention because the older ones were always around, right? And I always felt safe, and my parents were always there, and I had a roof over my head, and lived in a nice house and always had food on our table, and my parents were always there. My mother was a stay-at-home mother, right? And we lived in a great like neighborhood and had the beach there. So like I felt like, I didn't have to compete
you were the
with
princess living in her
younger
castle in that beautiful
yeah,
seaside hamlet, Steph.
honestly. Honestly, and it's really interesting because we'll come to it a little bit later, what happens when the next sibling comes along, right?
Yeah.
So
Well,
mm,
Steph, thank you so much for sharing that. I think we're all really excited to hear about those memories and sort of insights and perspectives.
mhm.
I think before we get into it in more detail, why don't you just give our audience a little bit of a perspective on you, maybe a little mini biography. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Yeah. I grew up in that lovely little seaside hamlet, Hope calls Marblehead. And grew up there, went to Marblehead schools, grew up from Marblehead High, went to State University and got my bachelor's in nursing. And that was, God, 1982. And ended up, I worked as a nurse, visiting nurses for a few years, but then went right back to graduate school and got my master's in family and community health and family nurse practitioner track. So, and then became a nurse practitioner in 1990. And I've been practicing for 36 years.
And
Imagine
for
that,
all and
how
for amazing.
long.
All of our and for all of our listeners, Steph, we'll just tell everybody you have become the go-to for us and any of our kids that have any sort of illness or
Ailment.
malady.
Yeah.
That's
Funny,
right.
my husband will say, "Who's calling?" And I'll be like, "So and so." He's like, "Who's sick?"
Yeah.
I know. Isn't that so true? It's so sad, but so true.
Yeah,
We're
which
so
I
grateful
don't mind at
for.
all. It doesn't bother me. Yeah. It's when patients call me that I have a problem. They find my cell phone number and they're calling me at Sunday nights. So,
Boundary
but
violation. Boundary violation.
yeah, exactly. They're way beyond the limits, right? So, yeah. So anyway, I guess that's my one of my roles in our family, which I'm happy to do it.
Outside of the background that you gave in regard to like your career, what about personal, just a little personal
Yeah.
background?
So I'm married and I have two children. Both uh live locally. And so I married my college boyfriend. We met when I was a freshman in college. And he was a sophomore, I believe. He's couple of years older than me, and we've been married for, well, we had a long engagement. So we got
Yes,
we
we
got
remember
engaged.
that. We
Yeah,
remember
we
that.
got engaged in like 1985 or 1984 and got married we started dating in 1979 and got engaged in 1984. Yep. Or in 1983 and got married in 1992. So,
Yes, I
I'm
remember
sorry,
everybody
1993.
saying,
Yeah, we
remember
got
when we
married.
were kids saying, when in the world are you and Dave ever going to get married?
Yeah. Well, we decided to get married when we wanted to have children. That's when we got married because we didn't really see the need for it otherwise. We have sort of a different perspective on, commitment and marriage. But, once we decided that we wanted children, then we decided we might as well just get married.
That
Right.
was
And you
that
got
was the
and
trigger to tie the
Mhm.
knot.
and
Mhm.
Hi, you got married before Steph?
I
Did you
think
get
Mhm.
so. Yeah.
you married
Yes.
like a month
A
or two?
year, I think a year before, right?
A
Yeah,
year.
so I got married in August of 93.
Or
So
you
you
got in 93. Okay.
so Steph got married
Gotcha.
before you then. You were married in 92, Steph, right? You just said?
No, we got married in 93. We got married right after Heidi then.
I feel like
Wow.
that's right. I think Steph and Dave got married just a couple of months after Heidi and
Yeah,
Todd.
because David was born in June of 94. Yes,
Yes, that
because
makes
we
sense.
decided to have a child right away. So, right, you were August of 93 and we were September of 93.
That's
Yeah,
right.
I think so.
Right.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep. So,
Awesome. Well, thank you for that background
hmm
information. It's super helpful. Um, so, first question that, well, not first question, because Heather asked you about the biography, but next question,
hmm
I guess, would be like, so because we're talking about what it's like growing up in, big families, what do you feel like were some of the best parts of growing up in the family that you grew up in?
yeah, I actually have a lot of good parts. I mean, I love my childhood. If I could go back to my childhood, I would, there were, I honestly, well, many people probably would, but,
Yeah.
depending
Definitely.
what your experience was. But no, I mean, I had great friends. I think one of the things that I think about growing up in a large family is how you learn how to basically be so resilient and learn like sociability. Like we have to learn how to get along, and communicate with each other, even if it's, speaking loudly to get your voice heard. Which, I speak loudly, my husband speaks loudly. He comes from a large family of nine. So, I learned that you have to learn, I mean, collaboration, figuring out how, we work together, common goals. I mean, just little things, learning responsibility, most importantly. I mean, that was one of the things that I feel like our parents always instilled with us. Like, you have chores, you have to follow the chores, even if it's just making sure that you're doing the dishes, because we didn't have a dishwasher, right? And we
Right.
all had a schedule of what our chores were. If you didn't want to do it, you switch a night with someone, right? So, or you get paid. Like my brother Mark would pay me all the time to do his night, and I used to make so much money doing his night of dishes, right? No, I'm serious. Because he was working, right? So yeah, it was like a job. Right? I got to do his dish night, but
Yeah,
different
he paid me
responsibilities
to
that,
make his lunches, so,
yeah,
you know, he had a
yeah,
good thing going.
yeah. Or I would drive he was a teacher, right? A new teacher. So I would ride, he'd be like, okay, 6 o'clock in the summer or on a weeknight. He'd be like, you want to ride your bike down to Eaton's the druggist and get me, 50 lollipops for my kids. Here's the money, and here's what I'm paying you. So just, I mean, little things like that. You actually learn a lot of responsibility for in that, I think, fostered our sense of success and duty and responsibility growing up, and, the focus that our parents had on education. It's really amazing when you think about having 10 children in a family and we're all college graduates and many have master's degrees, right? More advanced degrees. So, I don't think that that's very common in large families. So, but those are, I mean, I loved having people around all the time. I mean, you were never lonely, which could go both ways, right? I mean, having some privacy or space. But I think, if you need to, you just carve out an area for yourself to have that space that you need. So, and yeah, I mean, you become really resourceful. And I feel like you get a lot of support. And the one thing I never found in our family for most of us is, I find in a lot of large families, there's a lot of competition, right? Competition for love, competition for, a sense of being, important. And I felt like that was never really a thing for me, or any of my siblings, really being like competitive with each other. Or if not so much for me. I didn't feel like, maybe there are some older ones that feel a little competitive with each other, but yeah, but that can go both ways, right? Competitiveness is a good thing and can be a bad thing depending on how you utilize it. But those are just different bullet points that I've thought about, you know, through all of this,
Sort of
and
the
what I felt was
values and
important,
stuff kind of.
what I found good about growing up. And I feel like I love all my siblings. For the most part, we all, many of us get along. There's always going to be a few out of a family of 10. They're going to have their, conflicts, but
Stuff.
um, yeah. But for the most part, if you had 10 people in a boardroom, you'd have a few that had conflicts, right?
Yeah,
Um,
that's a
so
good perspective. Yeah.
That's
yeah.
what I would
So
say.
yeah.
Someone
I
even
mean,
like people.
yeah, I had fun, in my childhood. Always something to do. You were never bored. If you were bored in a big family, there was a problem with you. Right? So,
Yeah. I mean, Steph, as you talk about space, if you needed space, you could kind of carve out some space for yourself. What was your bedroom situation like in terms of like who did you share a bedroom with?
with Pam. So I shared a room with Pam. And then when we got older, I went the attic. We redid the attic. So that was like one big room, but it was separated by the chimney.
Yeah,
So
right.
I slept in one side and Pam was on the other side. So it was like we had sort of separate space. And then when she sort of moved out, that's where I had the third floor.
And
So
do you feel like you had a close relationship with Pam because you were roommates? Or was
yeah,
it
I mean,
age?
Pam was always, yeah, I always sort of looked up to her because she was only 5 years older than me. And I didn't have any younger. Well, I mean, when you guys came along, but yeah, I've always had a great relationship with her and with Deb. Because she would take me everywhere. Her and her boyfriend at the time, husband, we would go everywhere. So yeah, but yes, I did have a good
Um,
relationship with them.
anything else about the good stuff that you want to communicate before we talk about some other things?
Yeah, I mean, I just, I've always my whole life been really proud of all my siblings, and their accomplishments. I think that is, like we had such a great focus on education. My parents were educated. They, really pushed us to be educated and to do well. I think we also learned that, we have guidelines and limits, and there was always limit setting in our house. Like you had to be home at a certain time. We had curfews. I mean, seriously, we had to be home for dinner. We had those family like gatherings and traditions. You had to, like Sunday dinner, you really were supposed to be there for so that we could all be together. And even though we were, it was a lot of us around a table plus our uncle who was there a lot, we had to be there for Sunday dinner and we didn't want to really miss it either because there was always someone who was like making a joke or funny or doing something that would make you laugh, especially my brother Keith. So,
Steph,
so
I have a quick question for you on that note. So a lot of our older siblings talked about how they viewed Ed as a second father. Given where you
mhm.
sat in the family, did you feel the same way?
um, not as much. Yeah, I mean, I can't say I didn't. He was very, I was close to him. I was with him all the time. He took us out all, yes. I mean, I guess I just never thought of it as a second father. I just thought that he was a great uncle, who took us out all the time. He always had different like things for us. He'd like bring special treats to us, whether it would be like jewelry or anything, right? Anything we needed. And he was really good to my mother, to our mother. He was very good to her. And he was there all the time, which was great. So no, he was just a permanent fixture in our life. I just, but I didn't sort of look at
Attribute,
him as a father, like, or
yeah,
someone that would like discipline me
yeah,
or, make up any rules. But if he caught you doing something, I think for the older ones, he was more of a role model in that area. Um, for me, it
yeah.
was more my father and my mother.
Yeah, I was just trying to figure out, just given the fact that you were 5 years after Pam and
Hmm.
a lot of years before Faith and the three of us,
Hmm.
if that was the same feeling, and so you
Hmm.
just answered that, I really appreciate
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I mean, not as much as a father figure as he was just an
A
amazing
good
uncle.
guy,
Yeah,
yeah,
or a great uncle, right?
and
You could
maybe
always depend on him.
Maybe, that was maybe truer for like the boys in the family.
Well,
Um,
I think that's the case because they were always around him, or he had them working different, like getting them summer jobs or doing different things, or, had
handy.
them making money in different places, regardless of where that might be, right? So he had a lot of connections, as and I also think that at the time, I mean, mom had five young kids, right? Or at least four in a row, and then PM, who I know he came a few years later, but still, like that's a lot of kids to handle in diapers,
Yeah,
right?
for sure, for
So
yeah.
sure.
I think that he and dad was working and had his own thing going on too, like his like different organizations he like volunteered for, or was involved in. So I think, Ed was there really helping her out quite a bit, not with the physical part of it, but just as a support person. Hmm.
Companion,
Hmm.
yeah.
But Steph, to just expand on Heidi and Hope's question about Ed, so you didn't really think he was a second father, he was a great uncle. Do you feel like you had a close relationship with dad? Because, the three of us have talked about, sort of some of the insights from the podcast with our older siblings who don't really feel like they had much of a relationship from dad. And everybody said that as like Faith and the three of us were born, dad might have softened a little bit and been around more. Is that your experience?
Yeah, yeah, I feel the same way. He wasn't a warm, touchy feely type of father, and he wasn't there a lot. And mom and dad had a very traditional marriage of the time, right? Of the 60s, 50s and 60s. Like even
That's
though
very
she was
complicated.
educated, she was at home and she was taking care of the kids and she was cooking dinner and cleaning the house and doing the laundry. And he was, he commuted to Boston every day. And he would come home and he was tired, or, he was involved in a lot of different, organizations. And he would be gone doing that stuff. So, do I think I had a close relationship with him? No, but when I needed him, he was there.
Hmm.
Right. So, but he wasn't a warm, touchy, feely type of guy,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. So, Steph, so thank you so much for sharing, all of
Hmm.
those things that you felt were really, good, fond memories of
Hmm.
growing up. Um, can you talk a little bit? I mean, what did you find challenging growing up in a big family?
Um, so sometimes like having your voice heard, right? Or,
Sure.
sometimes like, with some of the expectations that our parents had, I mean, they were strict. I mean, I always think of them as being very strict.
Yes.
And like you did not want to break the rules.
Well,
or,
dad more
so
so
you
than with
just
mom,
didn't.
right? Mom was a little softer, right?
Mom was definitely softer, but if you pushed her, like I can remember a few nights in college, like I probably pushed the limits.
Yeah.
Right? And she was like the first time I've ever seen her really angry at like 4 in the morning.
Yeah.
When I,
When you got home.
yeah,
What did she
like
have
to
to
the
be
point where
angry about
Dave
at
would like,
the morning?
Dave, my husband now, but Dave would like run out of the house. He's like, I'm out of here. So,
You
so
deal with the
yeah,
consequences on your own, Steph. I'm
yeah,
out.
he's like, I might have created it, but it's all yours now. So, but no, I mean, so having your voice heard, you didn't want to disappoint them, because they were busy. You didn't want another issue, have them to deal with another issue. I mean, and so, just some of the typical things that you would think, like growing up in a big family, um, just one-on-one time, more than anything. I think that was the hardest thing. And, we were a middle class family and we did grow up in a very affluent town, right? So I feel like, the reason that I worked all the time was so that I could have money to keep up with buying different things that my friends had, right? Because they were very clear, like birthday, Christmas, school, right? School clothes, birthday, Christmas. And if you really wanted anything else, it was on you. Um, right. So, but did we ever want for anything like any of the basics? Never.
Yeah,
Right.
we
We always
got what we
We
needed.
always have what we
we
needed.
always had like the basics, like we had food on our table. My mom was a phenomenal cook. There was always stuff in the house that we never like missed a beat with any of that, right? We had a nice house. It was a little smaller, but it was really nice and a beautiful location. So but if I wanted a Lacoste shirt, and it wasn't my birthday, I was buying it. So,
Yeah.
I started babysitting at 13 and I supported like bought my own bikes, bought everything that I needed. And I think a lot of our older siblings did the same thing. So yeah. And I think that's where we learned our work ethic too.
And yeah, the value of money and having
Hmm.
to work hard if you want
Absolutely.
certain things,
Yeah.
right? A lot
Yeah.
of good responsibility.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so I think that's like one of the big things, and thinking about like you didn't want to really sort of disappoint them. And, sometimes, you'd be a little scared to have to communicate honestly if something was going on, right? And so, at times, you could be having some issues with, a dating situation or school. And sometimes it was hard to get your feelings validated on, the way that you felt because there was really no one around. But that's where I felt like the older siblings really helped dramatically with that process. So, at least for me, they did. So I felt
Give us
like,
an example of
especially
that, Steph.
Devin, Mark, Keith wasn't around as much, but definitely the older ones that were around. Mark and Deb too, and then PM. So yeah.
So, Steph, do you mean, I just want to make sure I understand. So, like, if you were going through something and mom or dad didn't have, enough bandwidth
Hmm.
to talk with you or help you one on one, you're saying that some of the older siblings would be there to help out,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
you felt like you were able to talk to them and
Yeah.
they
I
were
mean,
supportive.
I mean, I think the other thing is, as when you grow up in a big family, sometimes it's hard to express your feelings. And I find that it's really difficult sometimes to want to reach out and, almost have like a therapy session with someone because that's not what you were expected to do. And I think that there are a few things that come into play there. I think it's a large family, and I think ethnicity it comes into play too. I think an Irish Catholic family, and it plays a big role in how you were brought up. And our parents, as we know, were like staunch Roman Catholic Irish.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think too, though, it was generational, right? Like emotional health wasn't really something that
mm-mm,
generation was concerned really with. I mean, they were doing the job that they sort of felt like they had to do, which was making sure that we had food on the table and clothes on our back and a roof over our head. But in terms
mm-hmm,
of like feeling felt by your parents,
yeah.
when they would come
Mm-hmm,
near you and notice like, oh, you seem sad. What are you sad about? Oh, I would feel
Mhm,
sad too. What can we do with
mhm.
like
Right.
Right.
that stuff
That
was
that didn't happen
right.
to me or any of my friends.
And it's
Yeah.
So regardless of what size family you had, like your feelings weren't going to get prioritized. It was buck up,
yeah.
right? You're just going to have to learn how to be strong here and it always comes back to being resilient. And if you weren't resilient, you weren't gonna make it, right? You had to really figure out how to prioritize your own self-care.
Hmm.
And whether it was, I mean, when you're talking about your emotional health, right? So, or your friends. I mean, I think that, for me, my group of friends, I'm still close to my childhood group of friends. I mean, we see each other, we not much. We talk to each other a lot, and up until maybe well, actually, even last year, we got together, went away for a week, so we're still really close. Which they provided a lot of emotional support for me and
Yeah.
me for them.
I think
And
as
And for
I
us, Steph,
and for
yeah,
us,
so much
yeah,
of
I
yeah,
it.
was I was just gonna say, like, I think we always, at least I did. I think Heather and Heidi probably felt the same. We always felt like you had such great friends, and they were always just honestly so good to us. That you brought us a lot to a lot of places, and they were always like super warm and welcoming.
they loved you guys.
Yeah, they
Right?
never
Even to this
showed up.
day, right? I'll write something online about one of you and what you've done, and they're like, "Oh my God, the girls, we love them. Like, congratulations, girls." I mean, that's just the way that they were. They really enjoyed being around you, and they were never bothered by me bringing you with me
Which
ever.
is amazing, really, if you think
Hmm.
about it, because you spent
Hmm.
so much time with us, and
Yep,
we thought you guys were so cool hanging out at the lamppost
we
on
were.
Airbnb.
Yeah.
Like,
We were.
we were like so in awe of all of you guys, and to have everybody be so kind to us and so inclusive was really something else.
Yeah. No, they were great. Yeah, to this day. They always ask me about you all. So, yeah, I think that, there were definite challenges, but, if I had to do it over again, would I make any changes? Not a lot. I mean, I think that what I grew up in and, the way that I grew up, basically framed who I am today. Which, I don't think I mean, I feel like I'm a good person. And I've got a great profession and have a great following of patients and a great family, you know. As a matter of fact, if I could have had more kids for my kids, I would have. Like, so I wish that they had a bigger family than just having the two of them.
Yeah, it's so funny to think because I think all of us used to say like coming from a family of 10, I want to have 10 kids too. And then you have one and you're like, wow, this is really hard,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Makes you
It's a
appreciate
lot of work.
how much, mom
Yeah.
was a goat, right? I mean, my
Yeah.
God.
I don't know how she did it, but I really just don't know how she did it. But yeah, she was amazing.
Steph, I think that's an interesting point though, like you said, because for the most part, I mean, let's see, Keith had 5 kids.
Hmm.
um, But everyone else in our family, I think, has 2,
Hmm.
right? Outside Hope, I know you have, stepkids and stuff, but and I know I consciously made a decision just to have small family because I wanted
Hmm.
to give them the
Yes.
attention.
Hmm.
I think almost all of us felt like we didn't necessarily get because we were so big, right? And
Hmm.
you've got 10 kids and you've got 2 parents. But it's interesting, like you just said, you would have had more kids. Like as I get older and I kind of reflect back on like how great it was actually to have such a big family,
Hmm.
there's a part of me that really thinks if I had been in a bit of a different headspace when I was like having kids, maybe I would have had more
Hmm.
to give them the experience
Yeah.
that we had, right?
Hmm.
Like
Yep.
another brother and sister. So Sam would know what it would be like to like have a brother, and Helen would know what it would
Hmm.
be to have like a sister, right? They know what it's like to have a sister and a brother, but not
Right.
the other. So anyway,
Yeah.
I think that's an
I
interesting.
think a nice consolation to that is that they have so many cousins.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And like they're so lucky. Like my kids brag all the time about how many cousins they have. right? And so they do all the time. Like David, especially, he's like, I have 38 cousins, right? So he, right, up from both sides. He's got so many cousins.
Yeah.
And he loves that fact, that he can call on, the ones that are close by that, even like Sam and, that he can call on them, the ones especially within his age group,
Yeah.
if he needs anything.
Yeah.
So, or he talks to them. He's like, I talked to so and so the other day. I was like, you did? Like, like out of the blue? He goes, yeah. So I think that that's a nice consolation. But if we could have, we definitely would have had four.
Yeah, and I
So
think, you know,
Maybe a shorter engagement next time, Steph.
yeah. Are you
exactly,
calling me old?
and
I'm
well, bye.
kidding. I couldn't pass that up.
And we can't wait to get into some of the David stories too. But before we do that, so thank you so much for sharing, the good parts and some of the challenges, because every big family has both. So,
Hmm.
Steph, what would you say was your perception of yourself within our family? What sort of role do you think you played?
Um, well, I think that I was definitely a helper. Like when you guys came along, I definitely helped mom a lot. Even though I was younger, but that sort of turned into that you guys were with me. In high school. We would bring you like with us all the time because you were with me a lot when you were little. And so I think that was one of them. I also tend to think about conflict resolution a lot as a role, like thinking about, why are these two people not talking? What is like, what can be done to help that? And I think that comes out of being sort of a pseudo middle kid, and being more like Switzerland, like, because I have the older family and the younger family. So you want both of them to be able to have relationships and interact and not have any conflict. And I think, one of the barriers to that is, sometimes people just have this inborn trait that they don't want to fix things. But, I always want things to be good among all of us. So that's one of the things that I look at in the role. And then,
Kinda like a peacemaker or like a
yeah,
mediator?
yeah, more like a conflict resolution peacemaker, make these things, why can't you make this work? Why are you having this issue with this other person? Doesn't always work out, but but
No,
but
but
you
I think
try.
you always see
Yeah, you
both
try.
sides.
I can
Yeah,
just
Yeah. At
like
least I'll try. But that's actually carried over into my professional career too. I think that is I think I'm looked at as having a role, at least in my old practice, like in conflict resolution and like making things work and making sure that things are in order, and organized, and that, a direct answer on, different scenarios, like just making sure that people are getting along and it works, like the situation works. So so that I think I learned from being in a big family and being a middle child and sometimes sort of being on my own, right, taking off, or like I remember mom saying to me once, I think I had turned 18 and I came home and she's like, it's nice of you to actually come and visit us. Right? So because I was gone a lot,
the time.
right?
I know.
Yeah,
And it
she's
was
like,
such
yeah,
a
it's nice
different
of you to
time
be a
too.
part of the family, but
Socializing.
yeah,
That
because I'd be with my friends, or and my one of my girlfriend's parents were, I mean, they were almost like second parents to me too. Debbie's parents were so good to me.
Mr. and Mrs. Rossi.
We were like, we'd be up at their house in Maine all the time, and so I have fond memories of all of that. So I felt like I was able to carve out different like role models if my parents weren't available, in the moment, because when you guys were born, they were so busy. Or when you were younger, they were so busy. So, and you didn't want to bother them, right? So they had their hands full,
yeah, that's
you
typically
know?
what
Yeah.
kids do, right? They already know there's a
Yeah.
lot a lot
Yeah.
going
Mom would be changing one diaper, and before she knew it, to get you guys ready to go out, like, Heather, your diaper would be like wet again, and she'd have to like keep changing diapers, right?
yeah,
I don't know. I really don't know how she did it. And then Faith was young,
right.
right? So anyway.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna switch to another kind of topic. So, like when the three of us were born, Steph, how, if at all, do you think the family changed?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that, you guys were like triplets were not common, right? Back then. Like there were no, I mean, there were fertility drugs, but not really, so no one knew that you were going to be triplets. And, you were a surprise. So, that made you all like you were in the newspaper, you were famous, right? So everybody was like the Stroud triplets. So we became
Locally
famous for a little while, right?
Locally famous, Heather,
Right,
exactly.
almost famous, right? So,
yeah.
In the
but that, I mean, that did change I mean, it did change it a little bit, right? So everybody wanted to see you guys. I mean, not that you were a circus act, but so
Describe.
yeah. And I think then it was, I mean, I think I was a little bit older, and then people were getting settled into their roles, and then Faith came along, and then you guys came along. So I think it created a lot of controlled chaos in our house, but it was always controlled, right? It was busy but controlled. But you were a joy. I mean, you were all a joy. You were so cute.
And mom and dad probably thought they were done after Faith came along, right?
I think they thought they were done after me.
Yeah.
For you.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Faith was
And
Yeah.
then
7.
Faith was a surprise.
And
And then
then Faith was a surprise 7 years after me.
7 years.
Yeah, because mom was 40ish when she had Faith. Um, and then and then
yeah,
you
she's
guys.
like 42 or 40. Yeah, because Faith
Hmm.
is 2.5 years older than us, right? So
Yeah.
Hmm.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Do you remember, like, so, you obviously kind of goes back to what Hope originally said, like, Pam was 5 years older and then you were 7 years older than Faith. Like, so do you remember when Faith was born?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when Faith was born, in what way? Like,
Just how it changed your sort of position in in the family, right? Because you were
The
the
baby.
youngest and then like she was the
yeah,
baby.
it didn't, I mean, I was sort of excited to have a new baby in the family. And I was excited to have her around. And I think the older ones helped a lot with her too.
Yeah.
So I think everybody helped. I mean, everybody had a role in the home. And, luckily I was a little older, right? I was 7-ish at the time. And so I was sort of independent still in school, and mom had more time to dedicate to her. And I think their role changed a lot. I think that they were able to spend a lot of time with her, and dedicate a lot of time to her, which I don't think bothered me at all because I didn't really even recognize it. I think I was too young. But I do think that when you were born, that was bothersome for her because she did get quite a bit of attention for her first 2.5 years.
Right. And then we
So,
came along.
hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
And like you said, we weren't a circus act, but we really kind of were a circus act.
Yeah. I
You
mean,
know
not a circus act, but
what I'm
you were
saying?
an anomaly theoretically for the time, right?
Yeah.
What other triplets were around this area? I mean, there were none. So, especially when mom didn't know it. I mean, I remember when mom went to the hospital, right? Because dad wasn't home and no one was there to drive her. And
Were
she
you
went,
home?
what? Yeah, I
Were you
was home.
home?
Yeah.
You were home.
Yep. I was home. Yep. I remember. And she's like, okay, just wait for me to call and tell you whether it's a boy or a girl. And the neighbors down the street who knew that you were born and that you were triplets before we did,
Wow.
because the police
Yeah.
knew that
Oh, the
you were
police
born.
drove us.
Everybody knew. Yeah, the police drove you to the hospital, and they were good friends with our family down the street. So they called them and told them that mom had triplets. And they knew before we knew.
Wild.
Mm. No phones, I mean, no cell phones, no social media,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so Keith ended up going in the car with mom. Is that because he was the oldest one that was home at the time?
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they told us.
Hmm. Yep.
Wow.
He went with her. When I was born, I was I the doctor never made it to the hospital because it was a snowstorm. And so I was delivered by a Swedish nurse in the waiting room at the
At Mary
hospital.
Alley Hospital in the waiting room.
In the way that, like, on the way, like into the labor and delivery, the nurse delivered me.
Wow.
Yeah, Dr. Hopkins did. It was a terrible snowstorm, and mom luckily got to the hospital. Yeah, and a Swedish nurse delivered me. Yeah.
Well, and think about Mary Alley. I mean, it was, a stone's throw away from our house, so thank God it was right close, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're
Yeah, I
the
mean, they weren't delivering babies after that, or it was actually being closed down within a short period of time. It was me and twins that were born, the Carries that were in my class. We were the last ones born at the hospital
right.
The
And
in,
you're
fifth
the only sibling born in Marblehead.
in Marblehead. Yeah, the last ones born in Marblehead. Yeah,
you're a tried and true magician, Steph.
I
Marblehead,
am. I was born in Marblehead, tried and true. One
Marblehead.
of the last ones. Yep.
Now, I have a question for you. Mark, when we talked to him during his interview, said that people called Faith Mookie baby.
But yeah, they did. How did he remember that?
I don't know. It was a
Mookie,
weird,
how did that come about? Muka. Oh,
weird-
was that? Wait, didn't she have an imaginary friend? Oh no,
Though.
that was EC and Aussie.
Yeah.
Right, Muka. Did he say why we call? I forget.
No, I was just
But
curious.
that was her nickname, Muka.
Yeah.
Mookie. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he told us sort of the derivative. I don't know how they came up with Mookie baby.
We actually, Steph, when we were talking to Keith, we found out how Charlie came about. We never really knew where Charlie came from.
Yeah.
So
I
that was,
forget. How did it come about?
I
Wasn't it
guess,
you guys?
I guess he used to call us darling baby,
Yeah.
and then we would try to
Oh,
say
Charlie
back,
baby.
and
Yeah.
we couldn't say darling, so we were
Right.
calling him Carly, and that just
Yeah.
became Charlie.
Charlie baby.
Yeah.
That's how it came about. Now I remember.
Yeah.
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 But I don't know. I don't know Faith and Mookie. Maybe she remembers. I'll have to ask her.
I'm just checking out the family folklore,
Yeah.
Well, it's funny
Fact
because
checking. She's fact checking.
I had
Exactly.
Fact check.
Fact checking.
I had said something to her about Mookie, and she was like, "How did you hear that?" Like she was really shocked that Mark had remembered that.
Really? Did she remember that was her nickname?
Yeah. Yep.
I completely forgot that. Now it's all coming back.
Yep. Well,
I swear it was from Deborah and
Maybe.
Mac.
We'll have to
For
ask.
some reason, I think it was from Deborah and Mac, but I have to think about that. I have a
So
lot stored up in my brain over the years.
yeah, but you were little.
It's much slower access, right, to that information. Yeah.
You were still. I mean, you were 7 years old when she was born.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, you were little.
I was little.
Steph, anything else you want to talk about in terms of, how anything changed when we came along?
No, I mean, life was a lot busier, I think. But I think, mom and dad loved showing you guys off. I think we all loved having you around. The one thing I had wished, we didn't know back then, but I wish we had individualized you a little bit more than just, Heather, Hope, and Heidi,
the triplets.
right? In that, the triplets. I had hoped that, but that's hindsight, right? Because you never really think about that in the moment. You're always looking back. And I don't know how that affected you all, right? Being lumped into one, one group, right?
One entity.
One
Yeah.
picture, one entity. Yeah.
Well,
When you're all so different.
we joke around it. Hope went to Japan. I went to
I went to Bolivia.
Or I got that. Yeah.
We
Yeah.
try to figure out who we were separately.
separate where I begin and where I end,
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And we talked
Which is great that you guys did that. What?
we talked a little bit about sort of how we were grouped together. Even still, when we go back to Marblehead, Heidi and I haven't lived in Marblehead in years. But when we go back, people either see us and say, "You're one of the triplets," who remember us from when we were there. And
Mhm.
if we see someone, because Heather's lived there her whole life, someone will see me downtown and they'll be like, "Hey, Heath." and
Yep.
I just say hi
Yeah.
because, I'm not going to say, actually, I'm not Heather. I'm Hope. And I haven't lived here in years, but it's really nice to see you.
Yeah.
Unless they start asking you questions about Farrah and Ryan, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, we talked a lot about how kind of being grouped as triplets impacted us. We were together, until we were 18. We went off to college. We left college. We went our separate ways, really kind of defined ourselves individually. And what's fascinating about the podcast is that it's brought us back kind of full circle.
Yeah.
I think we spent a lot of time running toward ourselves and away from being triplets, kind of
Hmm.
back to recognizing that triplets are, it's part of it's a massive part of our identity.
Yeah. Your identity, right?
And
I
it's a
remember.
blessing.
Okay,
It's a real blessing to have had Hope and Heidi throughout
yeah.
my life. And I mean, it's like you said, growing up in our family, it was sort of like survival of the fittest, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Um,
Resiliency or
yeah,
survival.
Resiliency.
but
Yeah.
it is because
I call it resiliency.
We
we
reframe
Fuck
survival.
up, buddy. Yeah.
we didn't want for anything. We had like all of the basic necessities,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
That's true of all of us, and it's a thread that runs through every interview that we've done with siblings. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, I mean, it's really such a blessing.
Yeah. I mean, in having the three of you having each other, especially being the last of the family and having much older siblings, because with a 20-year difference, right, between you and Deb, I mean, I really thought that it was really nice for the three of you to have each other.
Yeah, we're
Um,
generations.
yeah, right. And it's completely different generation, right? So,
Yeah.
and I think there are a lot of good things about our generation that made us much stronger people. But I think that, there are a lot of things that weren't so great. But parents didn't know any differently at the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you know what you know,
That's
right? You don't
evolution.
know what you don't know.
We don't exactly, right? Everybody does the same thing. Like all neighbors, I mean, it's growing up in that village. What's your neighbor doing? And, it's like osmosis with parenting,
Well, it
right?
takes a village. I mean, right.
Yeah,
Right.
without a doubt.
Yeah, and I always, maybe this was my way of rationalizing something bad being something good, which was
Hmm.
because mom and dad passed when we were so young. Maybe somewhere, somehow, God knew that mom and dad weren't going to be there, so they put us together, like
Hmm.
to always walk by our side.
Right. Yep. No, that's a good way to look at it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So,
So, Steph, on that note, and not to completely flip the narrative, but can you talk a little bit about how the loss of mom and dad impacted you?
hmm I mean, I think losing dad, was such a surprise. I mean, you like never forget the day that
Oh,
you get the
remember
call,
it.
right? And so I had just graduated from college and I was starting my new job. I was actually in orientation. And I remember the director of nursing coming down and telling me I had to go to the hospital. Like something had happened to a family member, but didn't know who. And
Wow.
one of my best friend from college, who was a nurse at Salem Hospital, in the emergency room, like she was waiting there for me.
Wow.
So
So you were 22, Steph, when dad
yeah, I
passed?
was 22. Well, I was actually, so yeah, no, I was 22.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. I was 22. So I mean, I knew when she was waiting there, right? That
Did you know it was mom or dad? Like, did you
no, I
know?
didn't. I did not until the priest was there too.
Did you think it
Um,
was one or the other before you knew?
so they had said when I asked my director of nursing, they said it's one of your parents. We think it's your father. So, but you know what? This is a very ironic story. I pulled out of the hospital and I was going, like, it was in Danvers and I was going to Salem, and a hearse pulled out in front of me. And the
Oh,
first thing I realized, I said, one of my parents is dead, and then when I walked in and saw that, but they were so young at the time. Like I kept thinking, how could they be dead? How could one of them be dead? Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So anyway, so the impact of it was, I mean, it was terrible. I mean, for mom, for all of us, right? We all went into our survival mode. When you're talking about survival of the fittest, right? When you have a parent that's gone and who was the breadwinner, right? And, he had just retired and was, planning to enjoy his life. And then he dies suddenly. like you worry about like your mother's survival, like you guys, that was like my biggest fear was like, how are we going to do this for you guys? How are we going to make this work? Um, and it all obviously worked out fine. But I mean, how it changed is that mom's was still, she got up every day and did what she needed to do, but she struggled emotionally.
Yeah,
Like
sure.
she loved him.
Her light shone a little less bright, right?
Yeah, yeah, it really did. I mean, it did. I mean, even though she tried to hide it, she tried to stay so strong, but she loved him, you know, and missed him. So I think that was the hardest thing, is in watching you guys grow up, like the four of you grow up without a father, like not having that experience, with not having him around for you, right? So, because I mean, he would, even though he was always gone, like he would come to my soccer games or basketball or softball, like he would still try to make games. Mark always was like at the games, right? Mark would always come.
Is it our games?
Was
Yeah,
Mark at your games too? Like, did he always
yeah,
come to your games?
always.
Wow.
Yeah, he always came to my games when he could. Um, but I think that, especially my soccer games, but I think that it's like, I think it was a struggle for you guys, like seeing you guys play sports and not having them there. Because he had just retired, so he spent more time with you guys,
Yeah.
right? When he retired, like spending more time, like going out for walks or going to your little league games or whatever it was. And it was so nice to see that and then see it gone.
Yeah.
And I was sad for you all. So, and I always thought, I'll survive, right? Because I always had the philosophy that you had to be able to like support yourself in life. You can't, and that's one thing that I've learned from him dying so young, is that I will never rely on anybody to support me. Right? Because I always
We all
worried.
felt that.
I think we
Yeah,
all feel that way.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And at the time, I don't think it was just a generational thing. I think it was really the like part of the impact of losing him so young.
And watching mom
Right.
struggle as a
And
result.
watching them struggle. Yeah. I mean, she had a pension, she had a nice house, but you know, luckily she had older kids,
Yeah,
right? That were
totally.
very supportive of her.
And
Um,
yes.
and you guys. Yep. Right. I mean, we remember this Dave will always remember the CB factory story. Right?
How
Poor
could you
Dave.
forget the CB factory
I
story?
mean, to this day, he's like, he'll go to tell the story. We have a new rule in our house. When he repeats the story, we put our hand up. And now all our friends do it. Now we're like, we don't have enough hands, Dave. But the CB factory story was so funny. In driving home, and was it you who was babysitting at the time? Like someone had to get home to babysit,
I can't
and
remember. Yeah.
I think it was Heather had to babysit for the people down the street.
I bet I
Right?
had.
And you were going to be late, and Heidi was like, "That woman's going to slap you right across the face, Heather."
But
And to this day,
that's where Gremlins came about,
that's
right?
where Gremlins came
Yeah,
from.
yeah.
Dave started naming you the Gremlins when when he gives you food,
Well,
right?
right.
You turn into Gremlins.
So, Steph, why don't you just explain that story real quick for our audience?
So talking about socialization in the town we grew in, everybody at the time had CB coats, right? And you guys
Brand, right?
was a brand, right? It was a famous brand, right? High end brand, and there was a CB coat factory in Vermont. And Dave, my husband, and I said, "All right, we'll take you there." They had saved up this money and didn't want to pay, like, we didn't want to pay full price for these coats, which were incredibly expensive. So we get there and they have their money and they pick out their coats and they're like, "Well, we only have this much or that much." And Dave looks at me and goes, "Okay, what was this not expected that we were going to pay for these?" I was like, "Just be quiet. We're paying, like, we're paying the rest." Right. And he's like, "Oh." So then we're leaving. And every time he would take you out, the joke was he would bring you to McDonald's.
Yes.
Right. And so, and get you like McDonald's and Happy Meals until like maybe 15 years ago, he would always get you McDonald's gift cards for Christmas
As a
for
joke,
your
yeah.
stockings. But like he would say, "Jesus Christ, every time you feed them, they're wild." I was like, he's like, they're gremlins. He's like,
Yeah.
you give them water and they like, you can't stop them. And so we were driving home and there was a lot of traffic and it was late and Heather had to babysit at like 6 o'clock. And she was so upset. They started like bickering in the back after getting McDonald's. And Heidi's like, you know what? That woman's going to slap you right across the face for being late, Heather. So Dave's like, what the heck? So that was the story. So
I do not remember that. I remember going to the CB factory.
yeah,
Was I
that
being
was,
sarcastic or was I trying to like?
you're being sarcastic. Like,
Okay.
because you were telling her to calm down, it'll be okay. And she was yelling back at you. And she's like, stop it, Heidi. I need to be there. I don't want to, like, I can't call her and tell her. She's like, yeah, Heather, she's going to slap you right across the face for being late.
I remember that so well. I do.
Yeah.
Remember that.
Yep.
One of my favorite stories about Dave is just going to the campground
With
and
Oh
having
my
Dave
God.
and
Totem
Allie
pole.
tent together.
Yeah.
Totem pole. Oh my God. Allie. Yeah, like your friend. Yeah.
Shout
Totem
out
pole
to
forever.
Allie.
Yep.
That's
We were
literally
going,
one of the best stories ever. And Allie was like, I definitely know how to set up the tent.
the
And these
army
people
tent. It was an army
across-
tent.
I mean,
she
remember
was-
the people like across the campground? They were like they had their chairs. They were sitting there just like watching us, like for
Right.
entertainment.
You talk about a circus show. Right. It was like a circus show.
It was so great.
And you guys are trying to help, and Allie's like, I know how to do it. I'll help you with it. And Dave was like, get out. All of you get out. Right? Get out of here. Right. And then he put it up. But I think some guy who had been sitting there like in his chair, his lounge chair, drinking a beer, like watching the show and all laughing, right? I think he came over and helped him.
Yes, remember we left Dave and we went and played Pac-Man.
Yeah, right,
We
right
went
in
to
the
the lake, didn't we? We walked down to the lake.
Probably, but there was like a
Yeah,
like a
there
there was like a
but-
little entertainment area, like a campground. Yeah,
just
that they
remember
had
going
Pac-Man and
while Dave was
yeah, where
doing
the
the-
bathrooms and showers all were. Oh my
Exactly.
God. So Dave's sister, like years ago, bought a house in New Hampshire. And when we were driving to it, the first thing we went by, because she lives up the street from Totem Pole. I swear to
way.
God. Yes, she does. I swear to God. And
It's
she's
still
like,
there.
it's still there. It is. Yeah. Yeah. I haven't been
I would
back,
be
but
afraid to go look at what that looks like these days.
yeah,
Well, We're
Go ahead.
trying to plan a sister trip. How about the totem pole? LOL.
oh
You
my
imagine?
God. I don't think one of our sisters would take kindly to going to Totem Pole.
Probably not now.
Yeah, I don't think that she would do well going to Totem Pole. But yeah, there are a lot of funny stories. Like we were bringing out to dinner and yeah.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
won't mention
We won't
Corky.
get into it, but yeah.
We won't-
What'd you say?
We won't mention Corky.
There are some
or-
stories you just can't tell online.
No.
Absolutely. That
You
one will
cannot.
save it in
Yeah.
the vault.
We'll say
In
that.
the vault.
Dave just told that story to our kids.
Oh,
I swear to God. I swear to God. Not
Are
to
you
Caroline, but to David. Yeah, no, to David. Yeah. I told him he better never tell Caroline that story or I'll divorce him.
Yeah. Well, Steph, I don't know if you want to add anything else about the loss of our parents impacting.
Well,
I think
I think with mom, the worst part about losing mom was just, I mean, she suffered a lot, she got sick with, an autoimmune disease, after dad or, right before dad, died and she was really sick for a while. I mean, and she still got up and did like everything in the house. Right. And then when she got sick with cancer, it was devastating. Right. And then I think the worst part about it all was just knowing that you lost your second parent. And that, it's like, how is that fair to lose both parents at a young age? Especially for you guys. I think all of us felt terrible about you guys. But then looking back, I kept thinking, did we ever really explain to them like what happened with dad? Like, did anybody really ever sit down with them and talk to them about like how, like when you were younger, like how he died, what happened, I don't know. Like looking back, I think we all go into this like complete defense mechanism of protecting ourselves emotionally. and
Yeah.
not thinking about the people around us. And I think we just, or at least for me, I just never thought about you all not hearing the whole story. And I don't know, and I've never asked you that. Like with mom, I knew, obviously you knew because she was sick for a little while. But, you know,
Yeah, I mean, I just think that our family in general was never really good at doing emotion, right?
mhm,
So if you have this huge event happen, like the loss of a father, right? For mom, loss
mhm.
of a spouse, everybody was just kind of left to deal with it on their own. Like they kind of grieved sort of
Yeah,
alone. I mean,
yeah, yeah. No, I agree. And one of the ways that I got through that, like thinking about it all, is when I when I went to grad school, one of the best courses that I ever took was called Ethnicity and Family Therapy. And it talks about each ethnic background and what their genetic makeup is with their emotions. And it's so clear cut to me about the Irish and the way their emotions are. And that they just, a lot of them, like they just don't
Internalized.
talk. And exactly, they internalize, and don't really talk with each other about their emotions and their losses. So it's just interesting. But you know,
Fascinating.
I think again, we just had to think of it as, you got to buck up. You just got to do what you got to do and make this all work.
yeah, what's the other,
Um,
right?
You got to figure it out. Yeah,
you got to
exactly.
figure it
Any
out.
other alternative.
Yeah, you don't
Yeah.
have the option, right?
You
Tomorrow.
Um,
either sit, suffer, and do nothing, or
right.
you,
You
you
either survive or you don't, right? So I think that, and we were all taught that we need to survive and move on, and that's what we did. Um, but I think the bottom line is that we live and learn from our losses and our mistakes, and we translate those losses as we go forward in life, and hopefully utilize them to make changes with how we act and behave as we grow older, especially with our own children.
Yeah, sort of let the past inform
Yeah,
sort
it's
of
like transition and translation, right?
the
Like
future.
you translate what that transition was and you move forward. So, which was what my thesis was in graduate school, by the way.
Interesting.
To be very honest, that's what it was: transition and translation with emotions. Yeah, and loss. hmm So,
Probably what
anyway,
makes
so
it such a
that's my take. hmm
yeah,
Did
thank
you have a
you.
question?
no, I think
Okay. Well, Steph, I guess I would just say thank you so much for sharing that. I know for the three of us, certainly losing mom and dad, was obviously very devastating. And
hmm
those insights are really pretty interesting. And so this is a question that, I've asked everybody, and it's really, sort of what do you think that our family taught you, either intentionally or unintentionally, about how the world works? And to be honest, I think you've probably answered it kind of, as you've spoken, but what would you say, sort of in a nutshell, is what growing up in a big family taught you?
Um, be responsible for yourself and accountable, and always be able to take care of yourself to survive. And be nice. Honestly, be nice. Try to be nice to others and treat them well, because that's a part of being a big family, is that we have to treat others well. But I think it's also, I think over the years, like I've had to develop my own voice and not be, sort of quieted, with certain situations, and learn how to stand up for myself.
Yeah, setting
And that's
boundaries.
Mhm. So absolutely setting boundaries. I think that setting boundaries, I think for many people is very difficult. And as you get older, I'm sure you guys see that, that we learn how to prioritize, or hopefully we learn how to prioritize ourselves as we age. And that we don't want any people or anything around us that, create a malignant environment. It's just not healthy for any of us. And I think that, growing and bringing all these sort of values through, as I age, I can put them all together and understand, what it is that I want in life. Might maybe a little late, but it is what it is.
Hey, it's
But
never
I think that's what the aging process is. Um, so I've learned that, and I've learned the value of education and responsibility. So I also think that the the trait of taking care of others is something that I learned. I don't know if that's good or bad, um, because you become that, who that is who you become, and so, or doing things myself. I guess that's because I find it much easier to just take care of things myself, right? Which is a trait that I need to actually work on.
I know it's
It,
good and bad. We all suffer from it.
I think, yeah, I don't know if it's just, honestly, it's just a genetic component of us, but I think we are all very similar. And even my kids, like both of my kids are like that. So I have to think that maybe it's just genetic because their father is definitely not like that.
Well, I mean, we've kind of talked about it. I mean, I just feel like with the number of people, right, that you have in a family system and two
Hmm.
parents kind of attend to and attune to like the needs and trying to meet them all. I mean, at some point in time, we realize like we're going to have to figure it out ourselves. Like we can't really depend and rely on somebody else to
Hmm.
do it for us. And so
Hmm.
that's just something I think, I don't know if it's genetic. I think it's more
Learn.
nurture than nature, to
Mm,
be honest with you.
yeah.
And it makes it hard, like what Pam, talked about. I think what every single one of our siblings has talked about is that, right? Like unintentional or intentional lesson from growing up in our family system is, we're all independent, kind of like self-reliant, and that it's
Hmm.
hard to ask for help. And then when we ask for help, like we expect it to like be immediate. And when like
Yeah.
it's not, we're really frustrated. 'Cause it's like, why do I even bother to ask for help if like I'm just gonna have to do it myself anyway? Like, don't you
Right.
know that when I'm asking for
I
help,
need it now, right? Yeah. Immediately. If I'm asking,
right?
there's a reason because otherwise I don't ask, right?
Yes, and
But
everyone around us is like, "You're so crazy." Like, I'm gonna get to it. Like,
yeah, I know. And yeah, no, I think that the other piece to it is, you have to really work on developing your own level of self-confidence and self-esteem. Because there were so many people in that environment. And I think that education piece and learning responsibility and success in our careers, because we are all very successful, or at least I view us all as being very successful. I think that that's a part of having to learn as well, as coming from a big family, like, you know, providing that for myself, learning my own level of self-confidence. Because you didn't get a lot of I mean, we didn't get awards for everything we did, but I
No.
also think that that's a generation. And I certainly, off, well, I'm not a big fan of everybody getting rewards and awards. Um, that certainly doesn't help you navigating your own life, in a positive way.
Well, it's not reality,
Um,
right? It's not reality. Like
not,
everybody
yeah,
not
I
gonna always
mean,
be, the top, right?
right. If you don't, right, you do like have a problem at work, and are you going to cry because you didn't get like a pat on the back? You know, you got to, quote unquote, you got to grow up and put your big girl pants on or big boy pants on, right? As we get in, anyway. So I think that, just learning how to sort of make that all work and navigate that, came out of being from a big family too. I don't know if anybody else felt that way, but, um, yeah, I think it's just part of the process, I guess, with a big family.
yeah, I mean, I think you're right. Like, I mean, I struggled for years with my
Hmm.
self-esteem. I
Hmm.
think just developing sense of self, that's
Hmm.
happened all
Yep.
along the way, right? And like
Hmm.
messages that you're getting sent that ultimately lead you to conclude certain things about yourself and the lack of confidence or whatever it is. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's just sort of, you know, can be the outcome of not
Yeah.
really getting the
Yeah.
attention, the attunement, and whatever else that we
Yep.
needed from caregivers. Not that they didn't want to, they didn't
Hmm.
want to do that. It was
Right.
just they had their hands full,
Right.
right?
They had their hands full. They prioritized,
There was no
who
capacity. They
who
didn't
had
have
the greatest needs. What have?
I just said there was no extra capacity, right? Like it
There was no
was
extra
the
time.
greatest need
Yeah.
or problem was attended
Yep.
to, and then yeah.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
now we all are experts.
Pat, have you say anything about that before I ask Steph the next question?
Nope. I think
You're
that was
good?
great. Super
Go
thorough.
ahead, Ed. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I was gonna say Steph, but maybe I'll use one of your other nicknames, Stevie.
Go right ahead.
Hey, Stevie, is there anything else that you'd like to share, like any insights or funny stories, other than the things that we've asked you that I will say you're just dying to share with our listeners?
I don't know if any of the stories can actually go on a podcast. So, but I guess I will now that, Dad's gone. Um, you know, there are a lot of funny stories. Like one night, well, should I tell that story about the car being with Mary Lou?
Yes, I think it's
Yeah.
hysterical.
Definitely.
So
Yes.
one night I was out with all my girlfriends, and two of them are very close. There were four of us in the car, and two of them were bickering, and we had just come from a famous bar in Marblehead. And we were, yeah, and it was only about 6 o'clock. It was a Saturday, and we were on our street, and one of them, the two of them were looking at each other. One was driving, one was in the passenger seat. They were looking at each other and they were bickering back and forth. And one of them drove into our neighbor's brand new pickup truck. And so they were calling the police. The neighbor came out, was screaming, and I was hiding in the back seat because it happened in front of our house.
Oh my
And
gosh.
yeah,
You were
and
afraid of
so
Dad.
I was hiding with my other girlfriend, who can be a little bit facetious at times. And we were in front of Heather. We had pulled up in front of Heather M's house because
Yeah.
I said to her, pull up so my parents don't see me. And so the police came, and it was a police officer that knew them well, right? They were good friends with him. And so they were trying to make it work, and they were still fighting back and forth, my two friends. And so I was like, I need to get out of here before my parents come out of the house. I'm going to be in so much trouble. So I'm sneaking out of the car, trying to go in the back alley and in the back door, and Dad was outside, and he was screaming, arrest those girls, officer. You need to arrest them. And my girlfriend, who you all know, who name
Yeah.
begins with R, was in the
Yeah.
back seat saying, Mr. Strout, Stevie, it's your dad. Mr. Strout, say hi. I almost killed her, right? I like went upstairs because we were still going out. So I went upstairs. I went in through the back door, like somehow got upstairs before Dad figured out that it was us. And he never to this day,
You
figured
never
out
knew
who
it
it
was
was.
you?
Yeah, never
You
knew it
got
was
away
me.
with it.
No, never knew it was, I was just going to say their names, but never knew it was four of us in that car. Oh my God. It was like, I was so scared that someone was going to tell him. Yeah. And I was so mad at my girlfriend, but that's the kind of stuff she used to do all the time,
It's
right? To
That's
hilarious.
all of us.
amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing that he never found out, right? Like
Yeah.
that.
Because I definitely, like I said, pull up in front of the other house, like get out from in front of our house.
Can you imagine if he had known that you were
He
in
would
that?
he would have flipped. I mean, he was literally on the front stairs going, Officer Ord, arrest those girls, arrest them right now. I swear to God. Yeah. We
Hey,
were
Steph, who gave you the nickname Stevie?
Dad.
Just called you Stevie because your name was
Yeah.
Steph?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Stevie is a nickname for Stephanie. And he always called me Stevie. Yeah. Yep. That's from the time I was like, I don't even remember. Everybody called me Stevie um, until Dave, my husband. He didn't really like calling me Stevie. And so it changed to Steph, but all my friends from like town still call me Stevie. Um,
Anybody I see that went to high school with you or grew up with you always says, how's Stevie? Everyone.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then his family calls me Sta, um, for some reason, because it's Stephanie and Sta. I don't know if they just can't say the whole name, but
You see your friends from growing up, when you all go away and stuff, is it Stevie?
yeah, it is. And Mary Lou calls me Steph, but everybody else calls me Stevie. Yeah. So yeah, yeah.
Well, that's
Or Dave's family. Yeah,
we've known
I
Dave
love
a
them dearly, but
We've known Dave
yeah,
for, my God, for so many
long.
years.
yeah,
Well,
yep.
thank you so much for sharing all the things that you have today and just the stories that, I mean, you're definitely one of the funnier people in the family. So thank you for.
I don't think so. I think Heidi, you're pretty funny. Faith is actually quite funny. And Keith is very funny. So I don't think I'm up there in the top four. So maybe
Heather
I'm
and
like
Heather
number
and I
four.
For sure the best storyteller.
Yeah. Well, I could tell a lot of good stories. I just can't tell them on here.
Hope and I might be at the bottom.
No, you're not. We all have a good sense of humor. Um, or we try, right?
Yeah.
We try.
Try, try.
If you don't have a good sense of humor,
try.
it's like you're dead in the water, right?
Right.
You got to
Yeah.
laugh, right?
Yeah.
So
Laugh when you cry.
you got to laugh at yourself. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have a husband that laughs at himself all the time. So, right. I have a good example. I'll tell you one last funny story. Like Heather, it involves you, Heather, right? So it was 2 Christmases ago, and I do Christmas Eve every year, right? I do a big party on Christmas Eve. And Heather was like, well, who's going to be there? And I was telling her everybody, and I said, and then the hillbillies. And she's like, the hillbillies, who? The Marinos? So wait, right. So Dave, right? I told Dave heard me. He's like, "Did you just call my family the hillbillies?" I said, "Yes, it was endearing." I said it was a loving statement. It wasn't anything negative.
Known them for a long
And so
time.
he went and told them all that I called them the hillbillies. So to this day, they'll walk in like to my house. It's like the hillbillies are here.
That's
Oh my
awesome.
gosh.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
it's
Here we ask who you were actually
He
referring
has
to.
no humility. Yeah, he has none. Right.
well, it's funny that you say that because you know, Todd's family, you know, have lived. His parents were in Pennsylvania for a long time, but we're in Tennessee, and they've been in
Yeah.
South Carolina for a long
Yeah.
time. And so we vacation there with his family, and it's like technically called the Low Country. And one day I was like, "Are we always just going to be like Low Country people?" Is what I said. And so now, like, the text thread for that family is like Low Country people. And they have like, you know, when
Oh, you
we
didn't mean anything bad by it.
no, but you know, people were just like, "That's hysterical." And so now, like, when we have like things like we make tumblers and stuff with like monograms, it says LCP, like we're the LCPers.
Great
I should
story.
make you
We're
all
not,
T-shirts.
we're not
That's a
hillbillies,
new idea.
but we're out local.
Low
So,
country people. Yeah.
Baseball hats, the hillbillies.
yeah,
Yeah. The
exactly.
hillbillies. Right. And Dave's name is Chester. So we like his nickname's Chester from Matt Finn. That's from Matt Finn.
Right.
That is from Mad
Anyway.
Men. Mad Men has
Mm.
some,
We start telling those stories, we digress.
Yes, we digress.
Yeah. No. Yeah. No. Yeah. We won't tell those
Well, but
stories.
yeah, those are so funny. I love them. I love your storytelling ability. It's the best.
It is
Thank
the
you so
best.
much for your participation in the podcast, and always just really truly Steph for supporting us and letting us hang
Oh,
out
I
with you.
love you all. So,
Yes,
all right.
we love you.
Mwah.
All right,
All right.
Pam.
See you later,
Hopefully,
Tripadoos.
hopefully you've gained some insights, learned a few things, or laughed a little bit while listening to Steph's shared experiences growing up in our family. For now, thanks for listening to the Tripod. And remember, you can try us at the Tripod on podcast platforms Apple and Spotify. If you'd like to watch us, you can find us on YouTube at Listen Carefully, the Tripod Pod, all one word, the Tripod Pod. Please hit subscribe to follow us and join the conversation where the Strout triplets are talking. See you soon, fam.
fam.